The African savanna is a stage where giants walk. Among them, none commands attention quite like the giraffe. Its silhouette is unmistakable, rising above the horizon, its long neck reaching into the trees as if drawn by invisible threads. For centuries, people have wondered why this animal looks the way it does. What forces of nature carved such improbable beauty and power into flesh and bone? To answer that question, we must step back into deep time, far beyond the grasses and thorny acacias of today, to the dawn of the giraffe's lineage. The story begins in Africa roughly 25 million years ago. Then, the Earth was a different world, covered with woodlands rather than open savannas. Fossil beds tell us of a creature called Canthomerics. About the size of a modern antelope, it bore little resemblance to the towering giraffes of today. Its neck was short, its build modest, its head unremarkable. Yet within this unassuming form lay the ancestral blueprint of an evolutionary journey that would one day produce the tallest land animal on the planet. Paleontologists see in Canthomerics the beginnings of traits that later lineages would amplify. Limb proportions hinting at future elongation, and skull shapes that foreshadow the giraffe's distinctive profile. From Canthomerics sprang a diverse family known as the Giraffidae. Over the next tens of millions of years, these animals adapted to shifting climates and changing habitats. Some grew larger and more robust, others remained deer-like and nimble. Evolution, after all, is not a straight ladder but a sprawling tree, its branches reaching in many directions at once. Among these branches were creatures that, while kin to giraffes, looked strikingly different. One of these was Samotherium, a giraffid that lived roughly 7 million years ago. Standing at an intermediate size, with a neck longer than its ancestors, Samotherium seems caught between two worlds. Its cervical vertebrae show signs of elongation, as if stretching toward something greater, but not yet fully committed to the extreme proportions of the giraffe. Fossils of Samotherium have become a touchstone for scientists who seek to understand the gradual steps of neck evolution. It is an animal in transition, a reminder that monumental change often proceeds through subtle increments rather than sudden leaps. At the same time, other giraffids pursued very different experiments. Among the most impressive was Civatherium, an enormous creature with a short, muscular neck and a pair of massive, moose-like horns. Towering in its own way, Civatherium bore little resemblance to the long-necked grazers of today. It shows us that the giraffe's long neck was not an inevitable outcome. For millions of years, short-necked relatives thrived in their own niches, proving that there was more than one way to survive as a giraffid. Evolution did not design the giraffe with intent. It tested many possibilities, keeping what worked and discarding what did not. The neck's extraordinary length, then, was the result of both opportunity and pressure. Fossil evidence suggests that elongation occurred gradually. Vertebra by vertebra, necks stretched over countless generations. But why? Two dominant theories offer explanations. The first is the feeding hypothesis. As Africa's woodlands gave way to more open savannas, competition for food intensified. Animals with longer necks could browse higher into the trees, reaching leaves unavailable to antelope, gazelles, and even elephants. In times of drought, when resources were scarce, those extra centimeters could make the difference between survival and starvation. Over time, natural selection would favor the longer-necked individuals, stretching the species taller and taller. Yet feeding alone may not tell the full story. Observations of living giraffes provide another clue. Males often engage in violent contests known as necking. They swing their necks with astonishing force, using their heavy skulls like hammers to strike rivals. Victories in these battles determine dominance and access to mates. In such a system, a longer, more powerful neck becomes not just a tool for eating, but a weapon of sexual competition. The necking hypothesis suggests that sexual selection played an equal, if not greater, role in driving elongation. Just as the peacock's tail evolved not for survival, but for courtship, so too may the giraffe's neck have grown as much from desire as from hunger. Perhaps the truth lies in both. Evolution rarely follows a single cause. It is a tapestry woven of many threads: food, mating, climate, competition, and chance. The giraffe's neck may have lengthened first to secure nourishment in lean times, and then lengthened further as males turned it into a weapon of dominance. What began as survival became display, and the result was the tallest animal on Earth. The structure of the neck itself reveals how remarkable this adaptation is. Despite its great length, the giraffe has the same number of neck vertebrae as nearly every other mammal: 7. Humans have 7, mice have 7, whales have 7. Instead of multiplying vertebrae, the giraffe elongated the ones it already had. Some stretch over 30 centimeters each, massive pillars of bone supporting sinew and muscle. This is evolution's signature, working not with infinite possibilities, but with the constraints of a body plan, reshaping the familiar into something extraordinary. A neck this long brings other challenges. Blood must travel nearly 2 meters upward against gravity to reach the brain. The giraffe's heart is an engine of immense strength, weighing up to 11 kilograms and generating twice the blood pressure of a healthy human heart. Its arteries are thick and muscular, driving blood upward with every beat, yet such power risks catastrophe. If a giraffe lowers its head suddenly to drink, blood could surge downward, flooding the brain. To prevent this, a system of valves in the jugular veins regulates flow, while a network of elastic vessels cushions sudden changes in pressure. Without these safeguards, a simple sip of water might prove fatal. The giraffe's legs, too, evolved in concert with its neck. Long and sturdy, they elevate the body to balance the towering front. Their hooves are broad, capable of delivering lethal kicks against predators. The spine, though relatively rigid, allows for graceful movement. The tongue, black and nearly half a meter long, strips leaves from thorny acacias with dexterity and resilience. Every piece of anatomy plays a role, supporting the extraordinary reach of the neck and the survival of the animal as a whole. Such a creature did not appear overnight. Each trait represents millions of years of incremental change, tested and refined by the pressures of environment and competition. Fossils record some of these steps, though many remain lost to time. Still, the broad picture emerges, from humble, deer-like beginnings, through intermediate necks and short-necked giants, to the unmistakable giraffe we see today. The journey is long and the outcome improbable, but it is precisely this improbability that makes the giraffe so captivating. The giraffe's story reminds us of the power of natural selection to shape life in extraordinary ways. From the bones of Canthomerics to the towering silhouette of the modern giraffe, the line of descent carries with it a history of struggle and triumph. Each elongated vertebra speaks of ancestors who lived, fought, fed, and reproduced, passing on their traits to the next generation. Over millions of years, the neck became not just long but iconic, a monument to survival and competition. To watch a giraffe feeding high in the trees is to glimpse the outcome of this ancient process. To watch males clashing in combat is to see evolution's handiwork in motion. These behaviors are not random quirks. They are the living evidence of the forces that shape the species. The giraffe is not simply tall. It is a record of adaptation, written in bone and blood, towering over the savannah as proof of nature's ceaseless experimentation. In the chapters that follow, we will look more closely at these forces, exploring the debates among scientists, the fossil evidence that informs them, and the remarkable adaptations that allow giraffes not only to survive, but to thrive. The long neck is more than an oddity. It is the centerpiece of a story that spans millions of years, from ancient forests to modern plains, from humble beginnings to extraordinary heights. The giraffe stands as a paradox. Its neck appears to defy reason, yet it obeys the same evolutionary laws as every other creature on Earth. Scientists have long wrestled with the question of why such a feature developed and what pressures sustained it. To understand the giraffe fully, we must not only admire its form, but also examine the theories that explain its rise, the anatomy that makes it possible, and the lives it leads in the wild today. The feeding hypothesis has always held strong appeal. It seems simple, logical, and elegant. As climates shifted millions of years ago, Africa's lush forests gave way to more open savannas. The ground offered little, but the treetops still carried nourishment. Animals that could reach higher leaves gained access to food sources untouched by competitors. In times of drought, when grass shriveled and shrubs dried, the ability to browse high in acacia trees meant survival. A few centimeters of advantage, multiplied over thousands of generations, could stretch a neck from modest to monumental. Seen this way, the giraffe is an evolutionary escalator, rising rung by rung above the competition until it towered as the uncontested master of the canopy. Yet critics point out that this explanation does not cover everything. Modern giraffes spend much of their feeding time not at the highest branches, but at shoulder level, cropping leaves that many other herbivores could reach as well. If height alone explained the neck, why not see giraffes using it constantly, always stretching to the limits of their reach? The truth is subtler. The long neck does help in times of scarcity, when leaves above 5 meters may be the only food left. It also allows giraffes to spread out across a landscape without competing heavily with smaller browsers. But this does not explain the extremes. Enter the necking hypothesis. In this view, the giraffe's neck became a weapon. When males fight, they swing their heads like wrecking balls, crashing their ossicones, the horn-like structures on their skulls, into rivals. The sound is a crack of bone on bone, a brutal reminder of the stakes. Males with longer, stronger necks hit harder. They dominate rivals. They win mates. This, too, drives evolution. A neck that could once reach higher leaves now becomes a tool for victory and reproduction. Females, whether consciously or not, become the selective force. They choose males who dominate, reinforcing the spiral of neck elongation across generations. These two theories are not enemies, but partners. Evolution is rarely explained by a single factor. It is more often the interplay of many. The giraffe's neck may have begun to lengthen in response to food competition, but sexual selection may have driven it further than survival alone demanded. Each force pushed in the same direction, and together they produced one of nature's most remarkable adaptations. Inside the neck lies a marvel of biomechanics. Despite its immense size, it contains only 7 vertebrae, just as in humans and nearly every other mammal. What differs is their scale. Each cervical vertebra can be longer than a man's forearm, shaped to lock firmly with its neighbors. Muscles as thick as steel cables hold them aloft, while ligaments act as guy wires to steady the column. This structure allows the giraffe not only to reach upward, but also to swing the neck with terrifying force when in combat. The circulatory system is another masterpiece of adaptation. To pump blood nearly 2 meters up into the skull, the giraffe's heart must generate extraordinary pressure. It is one of the most powerful hearts in the animal kingdom, its walls thick and its beat relentless. Yet the giraffe must also lower its head to drink, and in that instant, gravity becomes a danger. To prevent a deadly rush of blood, the jugular veins are equipped with one-way valves and a complex network of elastic vessels known as the rete mirabile, cushions sudden changes in pressure. Without this system, the simple act of drinking could burst blood vessels or render the animal unconscious. Every sip of water is, in a sense, an evolutionary triumph. Even the giraffe's blood itself carries adaptations. It is thicker than that of many animals, packed with red blood cells that carry oxygen efficiently to the brain. The lungs are oversized to draw in great volumes of air, supporting the massive demands of a body that can weigh over 1,000 kilograms. The skeleton, though lightened by air-filled spaces, is reinforced where stress is greatest. The giraffe is both delicate and immense, a contradiction resolved through millions of years of natural engineering. The tongue is another marvel. Long, prehensile, and darkly pigmented, it can stretch nearly half a meter. Its color, a deep blackish blue, may protect it from sunburn as it flicks among the thorns of acacia trees. With it, giraffes strip leaves deftly, avoiding the sharp defenses that deter other herbivores. The tongue, the neck, the heart, the valves, the vertebrae, all these pieces form a puzzle, each necessary, none sufficient alone. Together, they allow the giraffe not merely to exist, but to thrive. Fossil discoveries provide further insight. In the sediments of Eurasia and Africa, paleontologists have uncovered a gallery of giraffid experiments. Some bore horns so large they resemble antlers. Some had squat bodies with little sign of elongation. Others revealed the early stages of stretching necks. These fossils demonstrate the variety of evolutionary pathways attempted. The giraffe we know today is the last survivor of a once thriving family, the single branch that combined adaptations in just the right way to endure into the modern age. Climate played its role as well. Over the last 10 million years, Africa's environments shifted dramatically. Forests retreated, grasslands expanded, droughts came and went, shaping the fortunes of herbivores. Those that could adapt survived, those that could not vanished. In this crucible, the giraffe's long neck became not just useful but essential. It allowed browsing at heights beyond reach, reduced direct competition with other grazers, and provided a weapon in the violent contests of males. It was a trait that could serve in good times and in bad, across landscapes changing with the ages. The survival of giraffes, however, was never inevitable. Extinctions struck many of their relatives. Civatherium, despite its bulk and power, disappeared around 1 million years ago. Other giraffids fell even earlier. Only the line that carried neck elongation to its extreme endured, as if nature had made many drafts before settling on one. The giraffe is not the pinnacle of its family tree. It is the last line standing. Today's giraffes reveal the legacy of that past. Watching them, one can see echoes of ancient pressures. When males engage in necking, swinging and striking until one yields, we see the ongoing relevance of sexual selection. When herds move across savannas, feeding from tall acacias, we see the feeding advantage. When a giraffe bends to drink and then lifts its head smoothly, we see the hidden cardiovascular system at work, preventing disaster. Every behavior, every motion is a living demonstration of millions of years of trial and error. The giraffe's story continues into the present with remarkable variety. Once thought to be a single species with several subspecies, genetic studies now suggest that giraffes may in fact represent multiple distinct species. Populations across Africa differ in their patterns, their ranges, and their genetic heritage. Some inhabit the woodlands of southern Africa, others the open savannas of the east, still others the dry expanses of the north. Each carries the same towering silhouette, yet each is adapted to its own environment. This diversity is a reminder that evolution never stops. Even today, giraffes are not finished products but works in progress, responding to pressures as they have for millions of years. To tell the story of the giraffe is to glimpse the power of adaptation. A simple mammalian blueprint, 7 vertebrae in the neck, a 4-chambered heart, a pair of lungs, became stretched and transformed until it created an animal unlike any other. Its existence answers the question of possibility. Yes, a mammal can stand 6 meters tall. Yes, a neck can stretch 2 meters. Yes, a heart can pump blood high against gravity. But its existence also raises new questions. Why did this happen here in Africa and not elsewhere? Why did one branch of the giraffid family succeed when so many others failed? Evolution answers not with purpose, but with process. The giraffe is not here because it was destined to be. It is here because the conditions aligned, the pressures selected, and the line endured. The neck is both symbol and solution. It is a symbol of how far adaptation can stretch, and a solution to the challenges of food, competition, and survival. To see a giraffe standing still against the horizon is to see millions of years of natural history embodied in one frame. To watch it move, feed, and fight is to see those years come alive. The giraffe, strange and magnificent, stands as one of evolution's most striking experiments, an experiment that continues to walk among us. The giraffe does not stand alone. Every feature of its body, every adaptation of its form, connects it to the wider world of the African savanna. To understand its long neck, we must also understand the environment in which it lives and the relationships it shares with other species, plant and animal alike. Evolution does not occur in isolation. It is the product of interaction, a constant negotiation between organisms and their surroundings. The giraffe's towering reach grants it access to the crowns of acacia trees, where leaves flourish out of the grasp of most herbivores. In doing so, it shapes the very structure of the vegetation. Giraffes are natural gardeners of the savanna. By stripping leaves at high levels, they prune trees into distinctive umbrella shapes, spreading their branches wide but keeping their lower foliage sparse. This sculpting effect is not incidental. It is a direct consequence of giraffe feeding, repeated generation after generation. Without giraffes, the acacia might grow differently, and the landscape itself would take on another form. The acacia, however, is not a passive participant. It defends itself with sharp thorns and chemical warfare. When grazed heavily, some acacias release tannins that make their leaves bitter and less nutritious. Others release airborne chemicals that signal nearby trees to do the same, creating a defensive network across the savanna. The giraffe has adapted in turn. Its tongue, long and tough, deftly navigates around thorns. Its saliva neutralizes some plant toxins, allowing it to continue feeding where other browsers would be deterred. This is co-evolution in action, a constant back and forth between eater and eaten, offense and counter-offense, shaping both tree and giraffe over millions of years. The giraffe's height also influences its interactions with other herbivores. While antelope, zebras, and buffalo feed closer to the ground, giraffes browse above them, reducing direct competition. This vertical partitioning of the savanna's resources allows many species to coexist. Without such separation, the competition for food would be far more intense. The giraffe thus occupies a niche that few others can challenge, an ecological role carved out by its extraordinary neck. Predators, however, still see giraffes not as gardeners, but as prey. Lions, the dominant hunters of the savanna, occasionally target giraffes, especially calves. Yet a giraffe is no easy meal. Adults can deliver kicks strong enough to crush a lion's skull. Their sheer size makes them formidable, and their height gives them an advantage in spotting danger from afar. Calves are more vulnerable. Many do not survive their first year, falling to lions, hyenas, or leopards, but those that reach adulthood stand among the least likely animals to be taken down, a testament to the deterrent power of size and strength. Even in death, giraffes continue to shape their ecosystems. When a giraffe falls, its massive body provides a feast for scavengers. Hyenas, vultures, and jackals all converge on the carcass, recycling nutrients back into the ecosystem. The bones, once picked clean, may remain on the savanna for years, bleaching in the sun as a silent reminder of the cycle of life and death that governs all creatures. For humans, the giraffe has long been a figure of fascination. Ancient rock art in Africa depicts giraffes with elongated necks, suggesting that people have marveled at them for tens of thousands of years. In some traditions, giraffes were symbols of grace and balance. In others, they were prized for their hides, meat and tails, the latter often used for fly whisks. When giraffes first reached Europe through travelers and explorers, they were met with astonishment. To many, they seemed mythical, like creatures from a dream rather than real animals. A giraffe presented as a gift to the Medici court in Renaissance Italy became a sensation, its presence fueling both wonder and curiosity about the distant lands it came from. The giraffe's unique form has also inspired myth. Some African cultures saw it as a link between earth and the heavens, a bridge between the grounded and the divine. Its long neck was a symbol of foresight, of seeing further than others. In modern times, it has become a symbol of the wild itself, a representative of Africa's landscapes in the imagination of the world. Its image appears in art, literature, and conservation campaigns. Its presence draws visitors to national parks, fueling ecotourism economies that support both wildlife and human communities. But with fascination has come exploitation. Hunting, habitat loss, and human expansion have all taken their toll. Once widespread across Africa, giraffes now face declining numbers in many regions. Some populations have shrunk by more than half in the last 3 decades. In certain areas, giraffes have disappeared entirely. Their survival is not guaranteed. The very forces that once shaped their evolution now threaten their future. Roads and farms fragment the savannas, reducing the ranges giraffes need to roam. Poaching, though often overshadowed by the plight of elephants and rhinos, remains a real threat. Conservationists warn that without action, giraffes could slip quietly toward extinction, their towering silhouettes fading from the horizon. Understanding the giraffe's ecological role makes this possibility even more troubling. Remove giraffes, and the acacias they prune will grow unchecked. Other species will compete more intensely for the lower levels of vegetation. The balance of the savanna will shift. The giraffe is not just a wonder to admire. It is a keystone species, holding together parts of the ecosystem that would unravel without it. Its decline would ripple outward, affecting plants, animals, and even human communities who depend on the health of the landscape. Conservation efforts are now underway. Protected areas across Africa safeguard critical habitats. Wildlife corridors aim to reconnect fragmented ranges, allowing giraffes to move freely across landscapes as they once did. Community-based conservation empowers local people to see giraffes not as competitors but as assets, drawing tourism revenue and cultural pride. International organizations track giraffe populations, bringing attention to their plight. Yet challenges remain. In a continent facing rapid human population growth, the space for giants like giraffes grows ever more contested. The giraffe's cultural symbolism continues to evolve in tandem with these struggles. Once a curiosity of foreign courts, it is now a global icon of conservation, a reminder of the fragility of nature's wonders. To save the giraffe is to save more than a species. It is to preserve a living legacy of millions of years of evolution, a lineage that stretches back to modest antelope-like ancestors and endured countless trials to produce the animal we know today. The long neck, so often the focus of scientific debate, is thus more than a biological puzzle. It is also a cultural bridge. It connects science to art, past to present, Africa to the wider world. Each generation sees the giraffe anew, ancient hunters as quarry, Renaissance princes as marvel, modern biologists as subject of study, conservationists as cause for action. Across all these views, one thing is constant: awe. To see a giraffe in its full height, striding across the savannah, is to feel a sense of wonder that transcends time and place. The story of the giraffe's evolution does not end in the fossil beds of the past. It is still unfolding. As climates shift again under the pressure of global warming, as humans alter the land at unprecedented scales, giraffes continue to adapt. They still raise their necks to the trees. They still clash in combat. They still bring new calves into the world, fragile lives that carry forward the legacy of millions of years. Whether that story continues for another million years depends not on chance alone, but on human choice. We have become part of the giraffe's evolutionary environment, one of the forces that will decide whether it endures. The giraffe, then, is both ancient and modern, both shaped by natural selection and vulnerable to human decision. Its long neck tells a tale of survival against odds, of adaptation to pressures, both environmental and sexual, but it also stands as a warning. Evolution gave giraffes the tools to thrive in the savannah, but it did not prepare them for fences, highways, and rifles. Only we can decide whether the story of the long neck ends in silence or continues to rise above the horizon. The ecological role of the giraffe is inseparable from its evolutionary story. It is not just an animal with a long neck. It is a shaper of landscapes, a partner in co-evolution, a player in the drama of predator and prey, and a figure of human fascination. Its neck is not only a product of adaptation, but also a tool that shapes the world around it. When we look upon it, we are not simply seeing an animal. We are seeing the living outcome of an ancient dialogue between environment, biology, and chance, a dialogue that continues still. The giraffe's story is one of survival across immense spans of time, but also one of fragility. It is a paradox in motion, ancient yet vulnerable, towering yet precarious, improbable yet undeniably real. To trace its history is to follow the shifting lines of evolution, but to look at its future is to confront the power of human influence. The long neck, once sculpted by natural forces alone, now depends in part on decisions made by people far from the savannah. Modern science continues to peel back the layers of the giraffe's mystery. Advances in genetics reveal that what was once considered a single species may actually be several, each with unique adaptations and lineages. The reticulated giraffe of Kenya, with its sharp-edged patches, carries a different heritage than the southern giraffe of Namibia, with its sprawling blotches. The Maasai giraffe, marked with jagged patterns, roams the highlands of Tanzania, while the northern giraffe holds on in scattered populations across Chad, Uganda, and Niger. These distinctions matter not only for classification, but for conservation. Protecting giraffes means protecting genetic diversity, ensuring that each lineage has a chance to endure in the face of change. Studying their behavior offers more insights into the forces that shape them. Necking, long observed in males, has proven to be a sophisticated contest rather than mindless violence. Males gauge each other's strength, sometimes engaging in gentle sparring, sometimes escalating into fierce battles. Victors win dominance and greater chances to reproduce, reinforcing the traits that give them power. This is sexual selection in its rawest form, a living demonstration of Darwin's theory. The feeding hypothesis and the necking hypothesis, once seen as rivals, now appear as complementary forces, each playing its role in the giraffe's ascent. The neck serves both to reach and to fight, both to feed and to display, a dual-purpose adaptation that carried the species higher and higher. The anatomy that makes this possible continues to astound. Imagine the stresses placed upon a heart-pumping blood against gravity, the strain on the vertebrae supporting such length, the balance required to move gracefully, despite ungainly proportions. Evolution found solutions in reinforced arteries, elastic valves, specialized joints, and a musculoskeletal system tuned to absorb and distribute immense forces. These solutions remind us that evolution works not as a designer with blueprints, but as a tinkerer with limited tools, repurposing old structures for new roles. The giraffe has only 7 neck vertebrae, because mammals almost always do, and yet those 7 were stretched and reshaped until they achieved something extraordinary. It is a lesson in possibility within constraint, creativity within limitation. As we marvel at these adaptations, we must also recognize their cost. A body built to such extremes comes with vulnerabilities. The giraffe's long legs make standing and moving efficient across open plains, but they make lying down and rising again a cumbersome task, leaving the animal exposed in those moments. Its dependence on tall trees ties it closely to specific habitats. Its reproductive rate is slow, with long gestation periods and only a single calf at a time. Such traits, while sustainable in a balanced ecosystem, leave the giraffe vulnerable in a world reshaped by human activity. Today, conservationists warn of a silent decline. Unlike elephants or rhinos, giraffes have not always commanded global attention. Their plight has often gone unnoticed, overshadowed by more dramatic stories of poaching and ivory. Yet their numbers have fallen sharply. Habitat loss fragments populations. Hunting for bushmeat or hides continues in some regions. Civil conflict disrupts conservation efforts. Climate change alters rainfall patterns, stressing the ecosystems they depend upon. The silent fading of giraffes across Africa is a tragedy in progress, one that can still be reversed, but demands urgent action. Efforts to protect them bring together science, policy, and community. Reserves and parks offer sanctuaries, but they must be connected by corridors that allow migration and genetic exchange. Local communities, when supported and empowered, become allies rather than adversaries in conservation, benefiting from ecotourism and sustainable coexistence. International organizations raise awareness, shining a spotlight on a species that should never have been overlooked. Each calf born in the wild is a small victory, a continuation of a story that began millions of years ago. Each safe herd is a promise that the long neck may endure into the future. The giraffe's significance, however, extends beyond biology and conservation. It carries a symbolic weight. For ancient peoples, it was a figure of myth and reverence. For explorers, it was a wonder from far-off lands. For scientists, it is a case study in evolution's creativity. For conservationists, it is a rallying emblem for protecting the wild. The giraffe embodies the intersection of natural history and human imagination. Its long neck is both an adaptation and a metaphor, representing vision, reach, and perspective. It challenges us to look higher, to see further, to stretch beyond the ordinary. Reflecting on the giraffe also reminds us of evolution's strange and unpredictable path. The long neck was not inevitable. Many giraffes thrived without it, from the horned Civatherium to the shorter-necked relatives that once roamed Eurasia. Most are gone. Only one branch stretched far enough, adapted well enough, and endured long enough to survive. The giraffe is not evolution's goal, but its survivor, the outcome of chance filtered through time. It stands as proof that improbable forms can endure, that strangeness can succeed, that adaptation can push life into shapes we could scarcely imagine. As we contemplate its story, we see echoes of our own. Like the giraffe, humans are products of adaptation, survivors of shifting climates, competitors in a crowded world. We too are shaped by pressures of environment and reproduction, though expressed in far different ways. To study the giraffe is to study the processes that shaped us as well. The same evolutionary currents flowing through all life. The giraffe's long neck is not just its story, it is a chapter in the story of life itself, a reminder that every creature is the result of countless trials, failures and triumphs, stretching back through deep time. The giraffe teaches humility. It shows that what seems impossible may be achieved, that forms we might call absurd can prove enduring. It teaches fragility. It warns that even the most extraordinary survivors can fall if the conditions that sustained them are destroyed. It teaches responsibility. In a world where humans now shape environments more profoundly than any other force, we carry the burden of deciding which stories will continue and which will end. The giraffe's survival is not only in its own hands, it is in ours. To walk among giraffes is to step into a living cathedral. The neck arches upward like the columns of a vast hall, leading the eye to a canopy of leaves where sunlight filters through. The air hums with insects, the ground trembles with the heavy steps of hooves, and above it all, the giraffe moves with quiet majesty. In that moment, the distance between past and present collapses. We see not just an animal, but the culmination of millions of years of history, still walking, still feeding, still passing on its legacy. The final lesson of the giraffe is one of perspective. Its neck allows it to see further than most, surveying the savanna from a height unmatched by other land animals. In a way, it asks us to do the same, to look beyond the immediate, to consider the long view, to think not in years, but in generations, not in individual lives, but in evolutionary time. The giraffe reminds us that life is both fleeting and enduring, fragile and resilient, bound by constraints yet capable of astonishing feats. From the humble Canthomerics to the intermediate Samotherium, from the massive Sivatherium to the giraffe itself, the story has unfolded across millions of years. Each fossil, each adaptation, each living animal carries a fragment of the tale. Together, they tell us that the long neck was not a mistake or a curiosity, but a powerful solution to the challenges of survival and reproduction. The giraffe endures because it adapted, and it may endure into the future if we ensure it can. When we watch a giraffe stretch upward to pluck leaves from an acacia, we see more than a simple act of feeding. We see history written in motion, evolution made visible. When we see two males clash, necks swinging, we see natural selection at work, shaping the future one battle at a time. When we see a calf take its first steps, wobbling but determined, we see the continuation of a lineage that has outlasted ice ages, droughts, and extinction. And when we imagine a future without giraffes, we see the silence that comes when we fail to act. The giraffe's long neck is not just an anatomical feature. It is a story of adaptation, of survival, of wonder. It is a story that began millions of years ago and continues today, fragile yet strong, improbable yet enduring. Whether that story continues into tomorrow depends on us. It stretched, it adapted, it survived. Now it is up to us to decide whether the tallest creature on Earth will remain part of our shared world or slip into memory like so many of its relatives. The choice is ours, and the time is now.